one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
While we're still standing, let's put a moment out here for Mr. Palmer in observance of the time and effort he's put into our museum. Thank you all very much. Too bad we didn't have a much bigger audience, but
It's okay.
it's a good thing we don't have.
We can do it again next month, I think. His son will be in presence.
Oh, well,
So.
Take a roll call.
Lois Tiley,
Present.
Diane Dennis,
Here.
Christine Newman is absent, Richard Horner,
Here.
Michael Nesbitt,
Present.
Kathy Harris,
Here.
and Sarah Tiley, absent.
As you see, the agenda is very short and sweet, but long dragged. Hope not.
Well, thank you all for coming. This is the most important thing we do as a village. And this is a good budget. Numbers are a lot higher than last year due to federal dollars, state dollars, increase in property tax values. I expect the property tax values to go up about 2.21% next year. So that'll be a little bit of an increase. So if you want to just go page by page, we'll just hit some highlighted items, some questions that Chris had that she wanted me to go over with you. So starting with the general fund estimated revenues. This is a huge jump. We're gonna have to look at this again before a March meeting, based on late property taxes and things of that nature. But in the future, we'll have to look at personal property tax replacement. I think the legislature is gonna mess with that once again. It's an item that Lieutenant Governor Calley championed while he was in office. Well, now he's the president of the Small Business Association of Michigan, SBAM, and I think he wants to keep going at it. And his wife is now a legislator, or in the legislature, and high-ranking official. So I could see this being replaced or redone. So we'll keep watching this. Building permits, we went down because of the apartment building being done, but that was a lot of money that Scott brought in. As you see, we added the $99,226. Those are federal funds, in which we earmarked about $50,000 for part-time police. Our constitutional revenue sharing went down by 2.2% this year, or about $5,000. So not a huge loss, but the state was really uncertain in their funding based on COVID. I'm not saying we made it through it, but this year was a little bit, the numbers were a lot more concrete than last year when we were kind of guessing. So we're expecting more pavilion rental this year as people are using the park again and COVID is kind of going away. You'll see the refuse collection is increased. That is to match the funds from waste management. If you recall, oh. Hi, Sarah.
Every red light possible, go ahead.
So the refuse collection matches the waste management funds. If you recall, there was a lot of years where we were not matching up and the village was actually paying for more than we were receiving on that. So we agreed 2 years ago that we were going to keep going with whatever was coming from Mid-Michigan Waste so that we're not subsidizing refuse. There is a contribution of $500 in there that Chris asked about. That is the first Rebel Magnolia. I'm not sure if they'll be back, but we have to, I'm going to account for that and add that to our funding. And as we have, I guess, for decades, a transfer from the DDA of $14,000 coming in. But as I stated last month, this does include a wage increase of 2%. Inflation is now over 7.5%. And as I mentioned then, our healthcare went up 10.2%. but our insurance went down by $1,280. In funds such as conferences and workshop and membership and dues, there's a little bit in several funds, but there's about $33,133 for all the requirements that DPW has to be a part of, for conferences and workshops for myself, for the clerk and the treasurer, as well as police training and things of that nature. So it totals over $33,000, but you'll see we kind of divvy it up amongst which fund or which person will be using it. If you go to page 3, in other village property, Department 269, wages, custodial wages, barn, that number of $1,300 needs to be lowered to $600.
So the wages, custodial wages
For the barn, yep,
for the barn, okay, to 600?
correct. And I would take that money saved to the DPW building maintenance fund down below that is at $3,600 and bump that up to $4,300.
I'm sorry, which one?
101-269-934-001.
Bump it up 600?
Uh,
Okay, okay, you already done that, right? Or
I
no?
bumped it up 700, so $4,300.
43, okay.
I had to listen to the meeting minutes to make sure what we had discussed was actually being done when we said it was $25 bi-weekly per month for up to 6 months to begin, so that reflects that. Page 4, overtime or part-time wages for police. You'll see the $55,236, that is majority ARPA funds. We will be receiving, I believe, new tasers this year. We made our last payment. And we will be receiving a defibrillator, but they will be donated, and I believe expect that to happen on March 3rd in the afternoon, and it might have news cameras out here and whatnot as they present it to us. The new vehicle, as I mentioned, came out of our part-time wages from this year unused. Moving to page 5, Parks and Recreation capital outlay. We increased that month funding to $19,001, and that could be with partnership with the DDA, whether it's an ice rink, whether it's paving of the basketball court or the parking lot, or handicap accessible equipment, which we've been looking into for at least a year now. And
And what number is that?
that is the capital outlay in the Parks and Recreation Department,
Okay.
691. So we're looking to do more in Coal Miners Park.
And give me the number again, please, I'm sorry.
19,001.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Planning Commission, I kept it the same as we are about 50% through the rewrite, the zoning and ordinance rewrite. There's still $5,000 in that account from last year, and I'm going after grants, as I mentioned, with the RRC funding, where I hope they will take over our $1,300 a month payments. But it's kind of a just in case, but at the same time, it needs to be there until it's completed. That is the highlights, the lowlights of the general fund. Page 6, Major Street. The State Shared Revenue Act $51 have been increased as of Friday to a $2,028 increase. So that number will now be $200,012. Well, let me say that again. $212,303. So 212,303. And I have not accounted for that $2,028. So if there's something you want to put it towards within here, for instance, in the construction department 451, construction, we could do, it could be just to cover water main breaks, a little bit extra, as we had two. Kentucky Derby visit, whatever you guys wanna do. Did we have 2 or 3 breaks today?
Today we have one.
Just one break that went up North Street and around to Main?
On Main, yeah.
Okay.
Then we got one on M52 we gotta fix, but it's,
Okay.
anyway.
Might be a good place to put it.
Yep, so we could put it there. I also have, we could do some sidewalks and some trees out of that fund as well.
There was a fellow in here talking about a sidewalk on Ithaca Road by the apartments.
Mhm.
Is that kind of on a wish list or being thought about, or
It was thought about,
the,
wasn't on my
Is there-
wish list.
is there drainage there? Is it really bad there, the wetness?
Well, it's a long stretch, there's a lot of ditch work and stuff.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I guess I kinda see where he's coming from, but if they're coming from the apartments, I don't know why they just don't walk down Maple Street, it's right behind it. They could-
Yeah, just shoot
Oh.
through the schools.
So there is a better
They
way.
walk on
There
the
is a
side
better way.
road.
Yeah, why they walk down Ithaca Road, I mean, kids got trails watered to the back of the middle school where they could just,
Yeah.
a lot less traffic.
And we could use it for ditch work. I think we have at least $2,000 worth of ditch work we need to do in the spring over on Walnut, so I'd probably earmark it for that, if you're okay with that. Other than that, everything is normal, according to Chris, especially in the transfers department. Like I mentioned earlier about OPEB and pension funding, we have $365,000 going towards both. And I mentioned in my budget transmittal letter, which I will give you for the March meeting, when I got here day 2, we were unfunded status and delinquent in our reporting at 59.1%. We are now at 66.3% and still going upwards. The goal is still by 2031 budget year to be 100% funded. And that's where the surplus division that is untouched keeps growing and helps our numbers. So we are dedicated to the past and looking forward to getting to 100%, where we can then analyze whether we want to go to a defined contribution versus the defined benefit, and look at employee contribution for the health and future of the village. Moving to page 8, local streets. The state found extra money for us, so that number, as far as State Shared Act, Revenue Act $51, needs to be increased a whopping $757. So it becomes $87,978 in that fund for revenue coming in from the state. We have the non-motorized Act 51, where there's 2,200 budgeted for trees, sidewalks. Last year we did about $3,000 worth of sidewalk work. The year before it was 14,000, so we're in compliance with that 51 once again, and we just keep chipping away based on kind of complaints, kind of like everything else. The sidewalk's trash, it needs to be redone. Okay, we'll mark it, put it on the list, and then we address it. I think we've spoken that in the future we'd like to kind of bid out to a company, have them for 3 years, and here's the amount of money, and you kind of assess what needs to be done at this price level, get it done, and we'll move on next year and kind of have a system in place rather than complaint only. But as we decided in the previous DWAM, that's how we handle resident issues. Other than that, pretty routine capital improvement plan things such as sidewalks, trees. The village street millage fund will stay the same. Last year we paved out front, as you know. There is funding in that account. But the plan that I have is to use that when we do phase one, as we get rid of the water main, old sewers. Rather than do new roads and then dig into them, cut them up, and have to replace them again, let's do it all at one time after the fact. So, getting that application to USDA Rural Development is crucial, and John Olson got back from Greece today. Mitch and I spoke yesterday, we really want our application in by April, so that we can be construction late this year or early next year. And, that's when I want almost everything done at the same time in phases. Moving to page 10, Boatworks Grant Fund, you'll see the interloan payment from the water back to Boatworks that we use for Fulton and Hosmer. Our auditors just want everything kind of clean, and on individual line items so that they can see what's happening and everybody else can see, so no funny business whatsoever. Page 11, DDA. I've been trying to spend their money like crazy to avoid having to spend village funds.
You mean they need help?
Yeah. So the important things there. So DDA community projects, the $20,753. So that's for the facade grant. It was utilized this year for the library only, basically. But in the past, Devwood Studio, John Gerber, and Bad River have used it. And I really think with some of the buildings coming open for sale April 1, that you will see some new buildings purchased and the facade grant funds utilized. Mr. Mark McCarter's buildings on the south side of Saginaw Street are delinquent taxes for, I think this is year 3, so they should be in the Saginaw County Land Bank as of April 1 for purchase at a much better price than what he was asking. I think he wanted $53,000 for the building with the crumbling roof and $35,000 for the open land with the fake facade front and garage. So I imagine somebody could get both of those anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000, and I would be happy to work with that person or people in the future to spruce up downtown. And so I think those funds will come in handy. We could also use some of those community projects for hometown days, car show, adding fireworks to Christmas parade, things of that nature.
That'd be cool.
There's also $16,500 in the capital outlay. Again, they keep talking about this ice rink that I've reached out to several municipalities that just say it's an absolute monster and a mess of maintenance. So I've talked with several people in town from every generation. Didn't we used to have one here? Why can't they just use the river? Why can't we do one here? Don't we already have one at the park? And I think it's a very complicated want from a few members of the DDA that we really need to be smart with our decision making on this. I love the idea of it, but I don't see, it's one of those, it's great in theory but poor in practice, like communism. Great in theory, but it doesn't.
Give our people more work to do.
More work for them, but for instance, are we gonna call them in on a Saturday because it rained and now you got a sloppy mess on the rink and people wanna use it?
I don't think it's more work that they need.
I know there's been some in the past and they've never really used them.
Like I said, Hart, I know he's talked to a few people, they are a maintenance nightmare. But
This last time we had all that, the melting snow, I told Steve and I noticed how there's a lot of water at the park, the coal miners park, I said, there's your skating rink.
Remember that one they had down there towards the,
one on the north branch.
what was the name
people
of it,
were
Pine
doing
Pine Street, or wasn't it on Pine Street? They had one there in the backyard of that, one house there. And everybody was using it, but nobody ever took care of it. It was
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
Up the end of North Main, they had one that people.
Well, and there's been a group
maintained.
of people too that have been down on the river.
Yeah,
down
North
by
Main, there
DNR,
was, well, there
that's-
too, but, I mean, like Hart was saying, if we could partner with somebody, we'd put it up, but you guys gotta keep it cleared and take.
There needs to be some buy-in from the DEA that wants
That's
to.
just, say,
Not-
hey,
Oftentimes I've found that it's great ideas, but then you do it.
Yeah, yeah.
As if we don't have enough to do.
That's like the bird sanctuary, remember that?
Right,
We had to have that bird sanctuary. What, it last 3 years? The
right.
guy died, Kohanik died, didn't he?
Kellogg died.
Kellogg,
Who?
yeah.
Kellogg.
Kellogg, yeah.
Kellogg died on us and,
The DPW had to do that work then,
Yeah.
so that was extra on them. We did have a portable skating rink at Coal Miners in front of the gazebo,
Okay.
but it was destroyed. It was cut up, it was a liner,
Mm-hmm.
and the DPW put it up. And, I think we still had the pool then, but it was destroyed, so that didn't work out either.
Yeah, and that seems to happen, don't it?
And they
Unfortunately.
cut it up is what they did, slowly, and just,
And that's the same thing they're looking for now, you know, and they said, well, look at this place and that place. And the thing that bothered me the most, I think, was, well, look at Frankenmuth. Frankenmuth has one and it's very, very nice. Frankenmuth's businesses raised $300,000 in 10 minutes to do that. Right.
Wow.
We
And
can't- we
I
can't
know
do
kids
that.
pay
We're not
$10
going-
to skate on it.
Yeah. And so 1 year's cost is $125,000
Oh, wow.
for that. And 25,000 of that is they have a Zamboni.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's your maintenance, there's your upkeep. So
well,
if
that was like,
they wanna throw in 300,000, I'm in.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that was our pool too, the DPW took care of that. That was 10 weeks of work, plus putting tile in before, and that was a lot of work.
Well, and they,
Yeah.
again, now let's throw in snow, salt, water main breaks until things are upgraded. That's 3 breaks in less than 10 days. That
Yeah.
have caused, I mean, you gotta chip away the ice, then you gotta basically use propane heat and fire to get to the break, to just pop the cap off, to turn it off. It's an all-day event. Oh,
Yeah.
can you leave the water main break to go, shovel the ice a little bit? I mean, it's a serious conversation that needs to have to happen with the DEA. As I mentioned, Jim DeLemeester is leaving, and the only person that has expressed interest thus far has been Kelly Cornford. Now, Kelly is on the board in Chesapeake, and she has a lot of ideas too, so we will see the direction of where they're going, but I will be pushing hard for some buy-in if we're gonna move forward.
With a little history there too, we had a baseball problem and we were promised help. And Kelly brought a few other people in, that help all fell through. And we suggested different things to do and to apply for the haunted house grant for money, and that all fell through, so you gotta have people willing to really
Stay with it.
chip in.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we go above and beyond to help Sam, because Sam and his friends have been there all day, working, not slacking. They've bought in, they're having that disc golf tournament to replace something that the village could very well help pay for, to do it on their own, so. Whereas, oftentimes Little League, it's, we need this now, what are you gonna do for us, blah, blah, blah. But with Paul being on the Parks Board, the relationship has changed. With Victoria on the DDA board, we're kind of building, and they're asking for things several months in advance. For instance, we just did their approval for the Little League, even though that's not till May. Normally, they'd come to us a week before the meeting or
Yeah,
the day of the
April.
meeting. They'd show up at the meeting in public comment and ask for it. So we're kind of changing the relationship, but and trying to get away from that. I need it now. It's like a Willy Wonka. I need it now, Daddy. Like that kind of attitude. So those are the highlights of the DDA. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but
Paul was at a lot of our meetings too, a couple of years ago, and he knew all about the baseball thing, and he would be a doer and not just talk.
well, that's good to hear because I haven't seen it.
Before you leave that Hart too, I'd like to just mention that $7,500 for equipment rental. Hart just started at what, when you first came here, we used to plow all the sidewalk, all the way from along M52 and all uptown, and people would always ask us, why do you plow that and not some other sidewalk? Well, we never really had an answer. Now our answer is we get paid to plow that by the DDA now. Before it was, why do you plow? Well, we don't have.
I've asked it back years
And
ago.
it makes sense, why are you plowing that, and, you know, but,
They never plowed it when we walked to school.
but now hard to start, we actually get paid the tractor equipment rental to plow that, so if anybody asks why we plow that, we get paid to plow.
Does it have anything to do with the park path too?
That's our own method,
Oh.
that's just part of the park, but the sidewalk actually,
Oh, okay.
all the way along M52 there and all the way down to, actually to the museum now, because that's all part of the DEA area.
And that was part of the conversation was had was, well, how come, well, Dr. Westerville, I believe, why don't you shovel all the way down or clear off all the way down to my place? And I said, well, I guess you're still in the DDA district and maybe we should, but if we're going to add this, there's gonna be something in exchange. Because we certainly don't have to. In a lot of communities, their store owners are required to clean off their own walks. And I don't think that's completely necessary, but there needs to be some kind of payment for service.
Yeah, it doesn't look, I went to a neighboring community after a snowstorm, and it's like, they just shove it out to the curb and it lays there and melts, and it just doesn't look good, and it's like, I think we got a good system and it works good, so.
I have a friend who has a granola shop, and her dad is retired, and so he'll go out and shovel just her, right in front of her business. But nothing, you know, he's only doing what she's required to do, well, then the rest of the block doesn't get done, and it just, when you drive through, it looks, I don't wanna say trashy, but it does, it looks messy. And, we're trying to draw people in and keep people happy. Page 12. So, sewer fund, did I skip anything? Did I miss anything? Nope. These are increased rates based on the changes we've made. We estimated, I believe, I'd have to look for sure, but, we estimated about 14,000 gallons per customer because some people are way over and some people are the bare minimum. But this is the average of the increases, so, allows us to do more things. In administration, Department 540, contracted services, you see the increase there to 38,000. This will probably be Spicer money, as we look to upgrade and at least get design work done for the East Maple pump station. Don, can you speak to the importance of the East Maple pump station?
All the sewer in the whole village goes through that lift station. If that station goes down, that's the most critical piece of the infrastructure on the sewer end, where the whole village, other than the industrial park, is out of business, or we're pumping into the river. If that goes down, today it was a good morning, we had a water main break, and we go down there, and of course, both pumps are plugged, so we're working on a water break and tearing 2 sewer pumps apart. So, it's just past its design life, it's old.
Yeah, it's surprising how fast those years went. Seems like we're just putting sewer lines in, it's been over 50 years. Wow.
It's beyond its life expectancy. It's
Yeah, it is.
upgrade. It's done a wonderful job, but it's time.
Yeah, it needs to be new.
Or refabbed or something, that's what they're gonna look at it both ways, so.
So why is there a difference, such a difference between the 10,000 and the 38,000 with the contract services?
The difference in sewer rates that we will be charging customers.
Okay.
It allows us to chip away at infrastructure For instance, you'll see on page 13 in the repairs and maintenance under operations and maintenance, Department 550, that the increase from 30,180 to 59,184. Now this could also be design work for phase 1 that we're working on, or other Spicer projects regarding our water and sewer infrastructure, or payment towards paying off a loan from the USDA, things of that nature. We do have funding for cure and pipe placing, which prolongs the life of pipes, but the whole point of this loan is to replace them, not just to prolong them. We want new, make sure that the service lines and materials are legal and up to standards, and not lead or galvanized as required by the state. We have to have that done by 2025, so that's why we're doing what we're doing, and it stinks, and we're still very competitive and very under. We're about $95 less per quarter than Chesney, and they have their own water. So, but and that's the same increase as we go down to the water fund. You'll see the state DWAM funds. We have about $161,000 to spend. I'm not sure if you read my email on Friday regarding the bid opening, but we had projected about $130,500, and it came in at $93,000. So we will be able. We were talking with the state yesterday to use those funds in other aspects of the grant based on this bid. But I can foresee contract change orders. Oh, we found this. Oh, we got to do this, and increasing their ultimate price. But I think we still will have some savings to use. But we also added that in, just make sure that the auditors see it and it's accounted for. And the water charges in, it doesn't look like that big of an increase, even though we did increase water rates, and the water charges out remained the same rather than an increase. So we found a glitch in our BS&A. So Fund 591-000-642-001 and 002, the funds were going to the same one, and we just found it. So in order to correct it and make things accurate, so now the charges out will finally be where it should be, and the charges in look less, but it's really will be in the out funds. So still revenues, but more accurate. As far as appropriations and transfer, you'll see the interloan payment to Boatworks again for the auditors, just to make sure that everything is clean, as they call it, up to snuff. Page 14, just as the money comes in, the money goes out. So operations, maintenance, the contracted services, and Department 550, that 161,000 of that is the state funds. So that will basically be going to Spicer for the DWAM. So it looks good, but it's not really there, and it's not really ours. But we also have the capital outlay, a slight decrease, $1,000, but that's still money that we can use for operations, maintenance, water main breaks, things that need to get done. Keep buying meters. We need to keep doing that, just to be safe in the future. Nothing too fancy, nothing too special. That's the water fund. The equipment fund, or Don's baby, however you want to call it, I kid, has increased substantially, and it'll even itself out in a few years. But for auditors' purposes and the appropriations, you'll see that the notes payable dump truck, we have to make our lease payment to the dump that we don't even have, so we will be ahead of schedule here. And the interest for the dump truck, they wanted that separated out, just audit purposes. But down to the capital outlay, $41,993. As I mentioned last meeting, our DPW pickup truck is 2001. I think think a lot of, in the past, they held on as long as they could. I know when I was working DPW in Owasso, they had a plan to replace everything every 7 years. Well, then the market crashed and the economy was down in 2008, 9, 10. So it went from 7 years to, we'll get it when it's broken. Well, then you end up spending all the money at one time rather than spreading out. So the goal with this is to have the dump, the loader, and the truck. And now when we redo the capital improvement plan, space out the payments and the years. So we're basically playing catch up right now, but this includes, have to look at my notes, the 2022 1500 Silverado 4-wheel drive. I think it was a Sourcewell bid price of about $28,831. Retail sales is about $37,000 on that, so we got the best price we could get. Don also asked for a was it a Rigid K7500, which is a cable machine,
Yeah, it's a
which
sewer machine.
which allows us to clean out plugged sewers of a 4-inch size, and that came in at about, I think, $3,900, but with shipping and everything, we're expecting around $4,500. So, go ahead, Don.
That would be for residential services, like if a clean out, if anybody has a clean out, we'll clean their sewer line for free, but if they don't have one, we won't touch it, but that's what it would be used for, so. And we do appreciate you spending all the money on equipment, that's, you know, I hate to beat a dead horse, but, and I'm not complaining, you know, we're doing the best with what we got, but me and Hard to Talk, we're trying to come up with a plan where we spend a reasonable number every year instead of, like you said, going out and spending $200,000 and then we're done for 5 or 6 years. It's like that dump truck, well, hard to spread it out. It's like, okay, that's a lot easier way to budget in my mind anyway, so. But, you know, we're making progress. I think we're not complaining. We'll make do with what we have, but we do appreciate your support, so.
Well, if you're gonna do your job, you gotta have tools to do it.
And therein lies the 2022-2023 budget.
Looks good.
So what were Chris's concerns?
I touched on everything that she commented on.
And after that, she thought everything was all right.
That is correct. But we'll see come March.
Looks like a well put together project.
Excellent. Any questions from the public?
I'd like to say something. It's not really
Public?
it's not really budget related, but I think it's a conversation we need to have, and it's, I was gonna try to get to you today, but I didn't have a chance. I think
Try
Tate-
what?
I wanna talk to Hart before the meeting, but I think we need to have a conversation. I don't think Tito's gonna work much longer, a year or two. I just don't see it, and when we hired Corey, we hired him to replace Ricky when he left us, unfortunately, but I think we need to start thinking about getting somebody younger in here to start replacing some of Tito. I mean, we're getting as much out of Tito as we can, but I think it's a conversation that we need to start talking about. I'm not asking him to hire somebody right now, but I think it's something we really need to get serious thinking about, because he talks about it more every day, so. I think we got a year, maybe 2 at the most, and.
Yeah, he was gonna retire when I first got
But
him.
there's a change in the conversation before you can tell what it was about.
Especially days like today.
Any more of these water mains, it might be earlier.
You know, he is invaluable in situations like we had today. I mean, we could get it done without him, but it sure is a lot nicer having somebody that you go your way and we go ours and we get it done. You know, you don't have to tell him anything, it just
Yeah,
happens.
he knows what to do and he does it.
Yeah.
So what happened today?
We had a service line over on North Main that blew off the water main, so.
Oh, it's cold.
Last week's been a lot of fun, but it is what it is, so
Tito knows his stuff, he's been here a long time.
As we're bringing these new guys on, we are getting them trained
We're trying as fast.
Right,
Certified and everything?
in
You know, the
over
bad, it's,
time.
it's, you can't just train them in a week or a year. It
No,
takes-
no,
it
it's,
takes-
experience is a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I mean, Corey's
Tito's
catching
got
on,
this
but
town in his
it
brain.
takes time, there's a lot of things you might do once a year, once every 2 years. You
Yeah.
just- It's not something, you know, like, it's, yeah, I mean, water and sewer is kind of the same every place, but it's not. Every system is a living, breathing, you know, you can look at a map, we can go to Chestnut and, yeah, it might be somewhat useful, but we're not gonna know to go shut this off, you know, it's just the way it works, so. But it's just something I wanna bring up, I'm not asking to hire somebody tomorrow, but it's something we need to really start thinking about.
So, I don't know, I might be asking a dumb question, but it just seems like every year we have quite a few water main breaks. Is that normal, or is that, is it just our
That's the
old?
system.
It's normal in a system of this age, until we start fixing stuff.
Okay. How much of our water system do we still have that's old or really old?
Well, I thought we had a map, we could, yeah, we have,
Is there still a lot of it, or
there's
is it?
quite a bit of it. but-
Is there really still? Okay.
I know we have maps of the age of the main, if you wanna actually come in and look at it, just so you can wrap your head around it. Most of the stuff south of the light, other than Hanchett and Cole, is about 1939.
Really? Still? Okay.
Since when?
About 1939, most of that cast iron main was put in.
Okay.
And then, you know, as you added Hanchett and Cole, those are by far quite a bit better shape, but still, there's, you know, that's $2 million sounds like a lot, but we're gonna do what we can with it, and it won't help. Because before this break, all the previous probably half dozen breaks were all on that first phase of the water main project that we plan on doing. And that one at Tony's could have been very, very expensive as that, but what we ended up doing there, I don't know if you, it was right by Tony's, it blew right up, I mean, it was draining the water tower like right now. What we ended up doing,
Oh, wow.
there's 2 blocks of Saginaw there that actually all the businesses downtown are fed off the alleys in behind. And we planned on replacing, we're gonna eliminate all that when we do the first phase. So all we actually did was just shut it off, and we lost 1 fire hydrant and 1 service. We bored a new service to the dentist office, they got a new service, which would have to be done anyway. But that would have probably been a $40,000 repair, but that's a foot of concrete, and that road ripping that whole area. It just, that would have been a very expensive fix, and it wouldn't have been pretty either. It would have been very visible and very expensive, so. We're planning on maybe, like Art said, if we can get digging, maybe this fall or next spring, that'll, I just can't see spending that kind of money on something we plan on eliminating.
Okay.
So, I talked to Mike already, he's already aware, there's hydrants on each end of the alley on the backside that you can use. You got a fire department, I'll use hydrant that close to the building anyway. But that would have been a very expensive fix. Thanks for your time, that's all, I don't wanna take it anymore.
Thank you.
Guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, I think it could be something as long as a part-time as Tito's exiting to see if it's a good fit with the guys. Budget for it next year, and as he phases out, phase them into full-time. And there will be some significant cost savings when Tito leaves. He's been here for 30 years, into the pension system, into the OPEB. And our healthcare is based on age. So, we'll provide savings.
Well, with the knowledge he has.
The institutional knowledge is gonna
Is
be a
definitely
huge
worth-
loss,
Yeah.
huge loss.
We'll just have to put him under a mandatory contract to be around.
So I went out there this morning to watch on Main as they chipped away and did everything, but the way that Tito, okay, so this one's here, goes up to there, but it crosses over there, then it'll be right there at that corner. And if that one's not good, then it's down here, this side of the trail, And, you know, they have the machines to come find it, but he doesn't really need it. He goes, I think it's like right in here. Zzz, boom,
You-
right on it.
You know, that's the hard part with him, is he just got it all upstairs,
Yeah.
and yeah, and,
We should blindfold them and make them draw
yeah,
a map,
get one of
like
those,
where they are or
get
something.
one of those machines that take all the knowledge out of his brain.
Well, that's why I'm saying, you said it would be a
Waterboard 'em.
cost savings for us
There you go.
if Tito retires, but when you think about all his knowledge, is
Yeah.
it really a cost savings, you know?
Yeah, because that saves, you know, that saves probably an hour of work right there. Anything about the
Yeah,
equipment and
yeah.
things of that nature, but
Right.
We gotta keep him on track once in a while, we call it chasing unicorns once in a while. He doesn't remember everything 100%, but he's a huge asset.
Yeah.
that's all I have. I will
Anybody
like,
have any questions regarding this budget, proposed budget?
I
If
do
not,
I'm new to this, so I'm not 100% sure if I'm understanding everything, but
Well, it'll take you years to understand it, believe me.
so you gotta make sure you stay at least,
well, I'm here for 4 years, right?
Yep,
Isn't it 4 years? Or is it 2 years?
I
Four,
think you're
right?
4 years.
Four, yeah. You'll probably, I'll just get used to it and then it'll be time to either retire.
No, you
or-
won't get used to it in 4 years.
No?
No, you'll still be saying to yourself, what?
you just be getting close and then,
Yeah,
yeah, you'll
After
either
about-
not run,
in
Or
12
you get
years, you'll
unrun.
be thinking about it pretty good.
Well, you know,
unran.
and Chris has been here for so many years,
Oh, yeah.
just like, I look at
But
this
she's
stuff, I
done
think,
this, you
well,
know?
and I think, okay, what kind of questions would Chris ask?
Yep,
You know?
yeah.
And
I
still
think they're
haven't
pretty
figured
well
it
all
out.
covered already in the meeting.
I touched on everything that she asked about.
Okay,
From the, even from the $500 contribution, the different waters and the .001 versus .02, highlighted things as normal.
well, you have enough
I'll
experience too.
lay odds that she's been at home studying this thing for 2 weeks already,
Oh, probably.
from the last meeting.
They need to have like a,
Her dad was the same way.
yeah,
I worked for him. He taught her well. Maybe the other way around, I don't know.
The last budget I did with the county was 16.4 million. And the problem there is some things, you know, well, one, you have state funds, federal funds, and then taxes. But you have other elected officials, not just your council members who have to vote. You have to get the approval from the clerk, the treasurer, the judges, the sheriff, who all think they're the most important person. They're silos, they're on their own, we don't even need you, just
your
approve what
department's
we
the most
want.
important, right.
So this is much easier, but still just as important.
It's good you had that experience.
Absolutely.
Then we're lucky to have it.
Yeah. There would be times where, so they're on a calendar fiscal year, so we'd have our meeting mid-December and then have to have 3 emergency meetings so that everybody could come to agreement. So you're not passing the budget till December 31st and it starts January 1.
Oh.
So it can be ugly, but
Aren't
that's
you
why.
glad we're not ugly?
No, I appreciate the work that you put in to look at things and ask questions throughout the year, so.
Anyone have any more questions?
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Pardon?
So I make a
Oh.
motion, we adjourn?
I'll
Uh,
support.
Support, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?